Pratasmarami samsfuradatmatattvam sukham tamam sagatim turiyam swapna jagara sushuptimavaiti nityam tad brahma nishkalamaham nacha bhuta sangaha tapobhikshina papanam shantanam vitaraginam mumukshunamapekshuyam atmabodho vidhiyate bodhonya sadhanebhyo hi sakshan mokshaika sadhanam pakasya vahni vajnanam vina moksho na siddhyati. Hari Om. Welcome back to Gems of Bhagavad Gita. Sorry, there was a bit of an internet issue, so I had to take a little change of course. Anyway, we will continue from where we left off yesterday. We were in the middle of chapter 11. 11वें अध्याय के हम बीच में थे जहां विश्वरूप दर्शन शुरू हो रहा था. It was just about beginning. And as I said yesterday, first Arjuna sees the glorious forms. First he sees Lord Brahma and all of creation. So how this happens, but the form of Krishna, it almost grows right in front of Arjuna, in front of Arjuna's eyes. Now whether it actually grew or whether Arjuna is hallucinating, remember Bhagavan said, I will give you the divine eyes. What does the divine eyes mean? Is it some sort of hallucination? We don't know. Best is not to take this literally. I found it's helpful not to take this, because then you will not be able to make sense of what is being said out here. But grows, as it were, in his form. And first, Arjuna sees in this gigantic form Lord Brahma and he sees all of creation. He sees the divine sages. He sees all the serpents. He sees Lord Brahma seated on the lotus seat. He sees the body of all the gods and goddesses. And it's all very nice. It's all very beautiful. And he's in absolute wonder. He's absolutely wonderstruck. And then we saw yesterday in the concluding verse, he says, I see Vishnu. He sees Chaturbhuja Vishnu. That's what he describes. I see with diadem, with sar mein jo mukut hoti hai, diadem. He sees with a crown on the head, a mace in the hand, and a discus in the hand. Gada or chakra ke saath, I see a mass of radiance, an extremely bright form, shining everywhere. Hard to look at. It's difficult to even comprehend what he is seeing. It's difficult. There's so much of light shining all around like the glorious fire and sun. Immeasurable. So this Chaturbhuja Vishnu, before we move on, is just a interesting thing to learn, to know. The Chaturbhuja Vishnu, the four arms of Vishnu and what they represent. So Chaturbhuja means four arms. So four arms Vishnu. On one hand, there is the lotus. There's a lotus on one hand. On another hand, there is a conch, ek shankh hai. On the third hand, there is a gada, a mace. And on the fourth hand, there is the chakra, the Sudarshan chakra. So what do these four things represent in the hands of Chaturbhuja Vishnu? The first thing, the lotus represents the truth. The lotus represents the bliss of self-realization. It represents truth. It represents your purpose in life. You have to reach lotus. You have to turn towards that lotus. You have to find the peace within you, the self within you. The peace, the joy, the happiness you're looking for is within you. It's not in the world. And that's why you have landed here, to discover that, to realize that. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janini jatireshanam. Again birth, again death. You're being born again and again. For what reason? For what purpose? The point is, we come here, but we forget why we've come here. We've come here for one purpose and one purpose alone. I'm not trying to demoralize you. I'm not trying to demoralize you. I'm only trying to remind us To whatever extent these words have an effect on us, we must hold on to it. We're here for one purpose and one purpose alone. It doesn't matter how far we are from that. It may seem very far. What I'm saying right now, the goal I'm talking about right now, the purpose I'm talking about right now may appear very far. Actually, it's not that far. Actually, it's not that far. The fact that you are sitting here in this classroom means you are very close. Means you are very close. How many beings are born into this world? There are trillions and trillions of beings. You could have been born into a mosquito. You could have been born as an earthworm. You could have been born as a bacteria. You could have been born as an animal. Anything you could have been born as. You could have been born as a plant. There are billions and billions of beings in this world. Trillions of beings. Among them, you are a human being. To be born a human being itself is an incredible, incredible opportunity. It's like half the battle won. Only a human being is capable of this sort of manana, of this sort of reflection, of this sort of awareness, of asking these questions, of discovering one's purpose in life. No animal is capable of it. No animal is capable of it. Forget plants. So no animal is capable of thinking, okay, what am I meant to do out here? What is my purpose out here? That question is reserved only for human beings because they have a buddhi. They are gifted with the buddhi to ask these questions. So to be born a human being itself is great. And among all humans, how many people have even heard of this knowledge? Many people have heard of the Bhagavad Gita. Many people have heard of the Bhagavad Gita or any spiritual knowledge, but how many have actually heard the actual knowledge contained within? 9 out of 10 people, they've at best heard chanting of the Bhagavad Gita. They've not heard the knowledge. So you are one in a couple of thousand human beings. You're 1 in a million among humans. And among those who have heard this knowledge, who have found a source which is sensible. There are a lot of people discussing Bhagavad Gita. There are a lot of people discussing Bhagavad Gita, but very few teachers actually make it accessible. And we hope, I hope at least, in this classroom, we try to make it accessible to you, to give you a chance to understand for yourself. How many teachers make it accessible? So how many people among all these millions actually have access to a true guru, to a real guru, to someone who has dedicated his life? Very few of us have access to a guru. So the very fact that you are in this classroom means you are 1 in a trillion. 1 in a trillion, literally. So your chance of finding that lotus, as it were, of Chaturbhuja Vishnu, you are one of the best suited candidates. You're one of the best suited candidates. Now it's up to you. So it may appear very far, but you're actually very close. You're actually very close. So don't lose hope. Try to gain as much inspiration as you can whenever we talk about stuff like this. Try to gain as much inspiration as you can. Anyway, so that lotus, that the truth, our purpose, there is a voice within us which drives us to that. There is a voice within us which calls us to that. That is the conch. जो शंख है चतुर्भुज विष्णु में, second हाथ में, जो शंख है, what does that represent? That represents the voice of your conscience. You have within you, deeper than your feelings, deeper than your thoughts and ideas, deeper, a voice within you called the conscience. And that conscience is your compass. That conscience, your compass, that compass points you towards the truth. That compass, that conscience in you knows what is right and what is not right, knows what is good and what is not good, knows what is taking you closer to true happiness, to true joy, and what is not. The point is, our ego, our desires cover up this conscience. Someone who's very angry, what has happened? His anger, his desires, his agitation has covered up that voice within him. Only when a person is calmed, only when the agitations have ceased temporarily, can you appeal to that voice of the person's conscience within and show them. And they'll know, they'll understand. I know I shouldn't shout like this. I know I shouldn't scream like this. That conscience becomes available only when anger has passed. So the voice of this conscience, this consciousness, is covered by our numerous desires and agitations because of it. And the more desires we have, the less accessible this conscience is to us. And most of us, being filled with desires, we ignore this conscience. We ignore this conch. And for us, we have the Gada. The Gada represents the knocks and shocks of life. If we ignore the voice of the conscience guiding us towards our spiritual purpose and remain stuck in our material attachments, remain stuck in our pursuit of mundane desires, remain stuck in simply fulfilling our ego and catering to our egocentric desires, if that remains our engagement in life, we face the knocks and shocks of life. We go through the ups and downs. All contacts born of sense enjoyment are wombs of sorrow, Bhagavan says. We've covered that verse. All enjoyment born of material contact are wombs of sorrow. Everything you are chasing right now eventually will come back to cause pain. Everything you get attached to will eventually come to cause pain. That's a truth. That's a truth. I'm not trying to demoralize you. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just stating a fact. Whatever you are attached to will cause you pain. Even if the nicest of things in the world you are attached to. Even if you're attached to your guru, it will cause you pain. So whatever you are attached to, you will have to face the Gada. The conscience in us guides us towards that truth, guides us towards detachment. But so long as you are attached, you will have to go through the knocks and shocks of life, the Gada. So long as you're lost in your material pursuits of name, fame, power, wealth, position, status, anything related to your ego. And if you still don't listen to the knocks and shocks of life, if you still don't wake up to question what is my, if you still remain egoistic, egocentric, and many people do, many people get into a moha, a delusion. Remember, chapter 2, verse number 62, 63. Dhyayato Vishayan Punsah Sangasteshu Pajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kaman Kama Krobdha Vijayate. So attachment leads to desire. Desire leads to anger. Anger leads to delusion. Krodhat Bhavati Sammohaha. Sammohat Smriti Vibhramaha. Smriti Bhramshat Buddhi Nashaha. Buddhi Nashat Pranashyati. So this moha leads us to our ultimate pranashyati, our ultimate delusion. Point is, those of us who are completely enmeshed in whatever way, completely enmeshed in our ego and egocentric desires, completely overcome by greed, anger, jealousy, fear, everything. When these consolidate, they turn into a delusion. They turn into a delusion. And in that delusion, people don't heed the conscience. People don't heed the conch. People don't even respond to the knocks and shocks. How deluded can you be? You've been jailed. Suppose you're doing some crime. Suppose you're doing some crime. अगर आप कुछ गलत करते हो उसके लिए आप पकड़े जाते हो. So many criminals you hear of, they spend 2 years in jail, they come back and do the same thing. They come out and do the same thing. It's true. Extortionists or pickpockets, you hear it all the time. What does it mean? Even though they face the knocks and shocks, even been jailed, they've gone to jail for a whole year, but that doesn't wake them up. They continue in their state of delusion. They continue in their state of delusion. That's moha. When you're not even waking up to the knocks and shocks. You're not willing to. Why? Because your desires are so strong. Your desires are so strong. You're completely deluded. And for such people, you have the Sudarshan Chakra. You have the chakra. For such people, there is only destruction. They are simply walking towards their own destruction. And eventually there'll come a time. They'll destroy themselves. So that's Chaturbhuja Vishnu. That's Chaturbhuja Vishnu. The choice is yours. Do you want to go towards the truth? Do you want to hear the conscience? Do you want to respond to the trials and tribulations, the knocks and shocks of life? Or do you simply want to heed your own destruction? The choice is yours. So this is what Arjuna sees. Until now, it's not very ghastly. He's still seeing very nice things. But after this, Arjuna begins to show some fear. This form of Vishnu grows, it swells, and Arjuna begins to show some fear. That's verse number 24. That's the next verse we will take up. Arjuna begins to show fear. Nabhasprishyam deeptamanekavarnam Vyatananam deepta vishalanetram Drishtva hitvam pravithitantaratma Dhritim na vindami shamam cha Vishnu Nabhasprishyam deeptamanekavarnam Vyatananam deepta vishalanetram Drishtva hitvam pravatitantaratma Dhritim na vindami shamam cha Vishnu. क्योंकि हे विष्णु नभ से स्पर्श किए हुए दीप्यमान अनेक रूपों से युक्त तथा फैलाए हुए मुख और प्रकाशमान विशाल नेत्रों से युक्त आपको देखकर भयभीत अंतःकरण वाला धीरज और शांति को प्राप्त नहीं होता. Arjuna is describing this grand form of Vishnu, seeing you touching the sky, shining in many colors, with mouths open and large, shining eyes. My mind is terrified. I find no courage or peace. अर्जुन को लग रहा था कि भगवान के विशाल रूप को देख करके उसे खुशी मिलेगी, उसे शांति मिलेगी. But an unprepared seeker is not fit, is not ready. This is the verse which you have to remember. Arjuna is an unprepared seeker. He almost forced Bhagavan, please show me your form. Bhagavan said in the end of the last chapter, of what purpose is this form? You have to go within. You have to go within. When you go within, automatically you'll see what you have to see. But no, Arjuna was insistent. What you have told me, how you have described yourself, you have told me you are Brahman, now show me. So Arjuna is asking for it. He's an unprepared seeker. An unprepared seeker is not capable of seeing the truth. Just as an unprepared mind is not capable of hearing the truth. You can't tell a child everything. They're not prepared. You have to wait for them to grow up a little bit. You have to wait for them to mature a little bit. And so naturally, when he sees the large and grand form, he gets afraid. So what is spiritual growth? See, in the world we see, you can't tell a child everything. It has to mature a little bit. So what is spiritual maturity? To be able to see the Lord in this form, to be able to see this and not get fear. So long as we have an ego, regardless of how young or old we are, so long as we have an ego, we will feel afraid. We will feel afraid by this form. Why? Because when we see anything greater than us, our ego feels threatened. Our ego feels threatened. It's difficult for us to digest in comparison to the Lord, in comparison to the universe. There's no difference between a mosquito and you. From the point of view of the universe, there is no difference between a mosquito and you. Just as you, nowadays, when you have the lot of mosquitoes in the season, nowadays people are using those rackets, those terrible rackets, and they electrocute the mosquitoes. You must have seen, they look like bats, they look like badminton rackets, and people just take it around and annihilate all the mosquitoes around them. What happens to the universe when a mosquito dies? What happens to the world when a mosquito dies? Is there any difference? Is there any change? Nothing happens. Everything goes on continuing, functioning as it is. Why do you think something will happen when you pass? We give ourselves so much of importance. We think the world will change when we pass. We will pass just like the mosquito has passed. Nothing will happen. Nothing will change. From the point of view of the universe, from the point of view of the cosmos, there is no difference between the mosquito and you. But your ego gets terrified at that. The more egoistic you are afraid of conceiving something bigger and greater than you. You feel a sense of fear. So naturally, what is the difference between an Arjuna and a Prahlad? In front of Prahlad also, भगवान प्रकट हुए थे. जैसे अर्जुन के सामने प्रकट हो रहे हैं, भगवान प्रहलाद के सामने भी प्रकट हुए थे in the form of Narasimha, a terrifying form. अगर आपके सामने एक नरसिम्हा प्रकट हो जाए, आपको क्या होगा? What will happen to you? Won't you feel afraid? Be honest with yourself. And the reason you will feel afraid is because you are afraid for your body. You have an ego. That's why. Prahlad was not afraid. That's the difference. The more you let go of your ego, the less afraid you will be. It's as simple as that. And Arjuna is not ready for that. Arjuna still has a big fat ego. So when he sees the form of Vishnu swelling, touching the sky, seeing all these grandeur, he's not able to take it. He thought he'll find peace when he sees Bhagwan, when he sees the Mahan Roop of Bhagwan, but he's not. His mind is terrified. He finds no courage or peace, and now he starts describing. He now starts describing something even more terrifying. That form of Brahma that turned into the form of Vishnu now takes the form of Mahakaal, now takes the form of Shiv himself. We see from verse number 25 to 28, we'll chant it consecutively, not together, but we'll chant it consecutively, but they'll express one thought. 25, 26, 27 will express one thought. So we'll see it back to back. Verse number 25. Damshtrakaralani chate mukhani drishtva kalanala sannibhani disho na jane na labhe cha sharma prasida devesha jigannivasa damshtrakaralani chate mukhani drishtva kalanala sannibhani disho na jane na labho cha sharma prasida devesha jagannivasa. आपको विकराल जाड़ों वाले और प्रलय की अग्नि के समान जलते मुख को देखकर दिशाओं को नहीं जानता हूं और सुख को भी नहीं प्राप्त होता. हे देवेश, हे जगन निवास, प्रसन्न हो. O Lord, have mercy. Seeing your mouths with terrible tusks and blazing like fires of time, I know not the four quarters. I have lost all sense. I know not the four quarters, and I find no peace. I find no peace. Have mercy. Have mercy, O Lord of gods. O Devesha, O Jagan Nivasa, O abode of the universe, have mercy on me. Now we see Arjuna's begging. Suddenly this form has taken almost a ghastly form. Sorry to say. It's terrifying. But that's the truth. Blazing fires, blazing like fires of time, consuming everything. What is time? Time is something that consumes everything. The march of time consumes everything. Tomorrow will consume today. The next instant will consume the previous instant. Time is like fire. It consumes everything. Everything in the past gets consumed. Time doesn't wait for anything. Time doesn't leave anything behind. Like fire. Wherever it is, whatever it is, it will burn away. Whether it's the most important document also, it will burn away. It will burn it all away. So Arjuna begins to feel this fear. Oh Lord, have mercy on me. And he's just starting to describe this form of Vishnu is changing. This form is developing terrible tusks. What are these terrible tusks? Try to visualize it. Try to visualize it. The great, beautiful form of the Lord now has these tusks coming out of these mouths, and the mouth is open. And wait before he describes the next two verses, because that is truly terrifying. That is truly terrifying. Even after hearing this, you will also tell me, Utsav ji, please stop. बहुत हो गया, अब मुझे भी नहीं चाहिए विश्व रूप दर्शन, अब मेरे लिए भी बहुत हो गया ये, अब नेक्स्ट चैप्टर में चलते हैं. It is quite ghastly. We will see in the next 2 verses. We'll take it together. He's describing. Ami chatvam dhritarashtrasya putraha sarve sahaivavani pala sanghaihi bhishmo drona suta putrastathasau sahasmadiyairapi yodha mukhyaihi. Ami chatvam dhritarashtrasya putraha sarve sahaivavani pala sanghaihi Bhishmo Drona Suta Putrastathasau Sahasmadiyairapi Yodha Mukhyaihi. 27. Vaktrani te tvaramana vishanti Damshtrakaralani bhayanakani Kechid vilagna dashanantareshu Sandrishyante churnitairuttamaangaihi Vaktrani te tvaramana vishanti Damshtrakaralani bhayanakani Kechid vilagna dashanantareshu Sandrishyante churnitairuttamaangaihi. मैं हिंदी का अनुवाद यहां से करूंगा, बड़ा लंबा हो रहा था. वे सभी धृतराष्ट्र के पुत्र राजाओं के झुंड सहित तुम में और भीष्म, द्रोण तथा सूत पुत्र हमारे पक्ष के भी प्रधान योद्धाओं के सहित प्रवेश कर रहे हैं. दौड़ते हुए आपके विकराल दाढ़ों वाले भयानक मुखों में प्रवेश करते. कई एक चूर्ण हुए सारे सिरों के सहित और मुख दांतों के बीच भी लगे दिखते हैं. कई एक चूर्ण हुए सिरों से के सहित और कुछ दांतों के बीच के में लगे दिखते हैं. Very interesting. You should try to visualize this. These sons of Dhritarashtra, with all the hosts of kings, the Bhishmas, the Dronas, Suta's son, along with all our warrior chiefs also. Many warrior chiefs on our side also. What are you seeing? All of these people are going into your tusks, into your mouths with terrible tusks, fearful to behold. They hurriedly enter. I am seeing all these people enter you. What is Arjuna visualizing? He's seeing all these people, Bhishma, Drona, all these warrior chiefs entering into the mouth of this cosmic form, into the terrible tusks. And he says, some are seen sticking in the gaps between the teeth with their heads pulverized. भगवान, मैंने विश्वरूप दर्शन मांगा था, आपने क्या दिखा दिया? What are you showing me? See, I'm empathizing with Arjuna. If I was in Arjuna's place also, I would have felt terrified if this is what I had to see. If this is what I had to see, I am being honest, I would have also been terrified. Try to conceive this. All these people in the opposing army as well as some people in his army are flowing into the mouth of this cosmic form, which has terrible tusks. Which has the reason he's saying terrible tusks is because he is feeling afraid, not because the tusks are terrible. He is feeling afraid. He is fearful to see it also. And they are hurriedly entering. Some are seen sticking in the gaps. Imagine, people are so small. The cosmic form is so huge, and all these people are flowing into the mouths. And some are seen sticking in the gaps between the teeth. Just as when you eat some food, there's some food that gets stuck in between the teeth. Similarly, Bhishma, imagine Bhishma stuck in between the teeth of this form, and with their heads pulverized, smashed into pulp. Truly ghastly form. And he says something quite philosophical in the next verse, which we will take up. Yada nadinam bahavombuvegaha Samudramevabhimukha dravanti तथा तवामी नरलोकवीरा विशन्ति वक्त्राण्यभिविज्वलन्ति यथा नदीनां बहवोऽम्बुवेगः समुद्रमेवाभिमुखा द्रवन्ति तथा तवामी नरलोकवीरा विशन्ति वक्त्राण्यभिविज्वलन्ति। जैसे नदियों के बहुत से जल के प्रवाह समुद्र के ही सम्मुख दौड़ते हैं, वैसे ही ये संसार के वीर तुम्हारे प्रज्वलित हुए मुख में प्रवेश करते हैं. As the many torrents of rivers rush towards the ocean alone, so do these heroes in the world of men enter your blazing mouth. So what Arjuna is seeing, what he's describing, he's seeing all these beings enter into the mouth of this cosmic form. And he's saying, how are they entering? They are entering with so much force, just as a river is entering the ocean. It's almost inevitable. It's almost inevitable for a river to enter the ocean. Similarly, it's inevitable that these beings will enter the mouth, that these beings will meet their end, that these beings will meet their eventuality, their death. And it doesn't matter who it is, even all the heroes of the world of men. Kaal doesn't see who is who. It doesn't see your designation and say, okay, fine, I will wait for you. Kaal is relentless. Mahakaal is relentless. No matter how much wealth you have, how much health you have, how much power you have, death is that great equalizer. Death is that great equalizer. You cannot cheat death. You cannot cheat that eventuality. Even all the heroes of the world, they are entering your mouths like the rivers rush into the ocean. Inevitably, hurriedly. Inevitably, hurriedly. Nobody can cheat death. Nobody can cheat death. And at the time of death, in the Bhaja Govindam, Adi Shankaracharya says, Samprapte sannihite kale nahi nahi rakshati dukrin kare. All these things that you are indulging in, all these things that you are saving up on, all these things that you are priding yourself for, none of these things will help you. None of these things will help you. The name, the fame, the power, the position, the wealth, none of it counts. The only thing that counts is your spiritual knowledge. The only thing that counts in this world, in your progress forward, is your spiritual knowledge. Why? Because that's what you take with you. Your spiritual knowledge determines what you become. The knowledge you have of life, the insight you have into your purpose in life. Bhagavan keeps saying again and again, as you desire, as the knowledge you have, so your next birth will be, so your journey forward will be. So the only thing you take forward, none of this you carry forward with you. All you carry forward with you is your insight into life, is your spiritual knowledge, which you soak in, which you embody. Everybody is moving towards death, into the blazing mouth of Mahakaal, just as rivers are marching into the ocean. And here Bhagavan clarifies, here Bhagavan describes why he's showing Arjuna all of this, why he's showing Arjuna this ghastly form. Verse number 32. Arjuna is a mere instrument of action. Very interesting. Arjuna is a mere instrument of action. So after this entire form for the last 20 odd verses, Arjuna is described because he's seeing it, so he's speaking. And after having begged the Lord, okay, Lord, I've had enough, Bhagavan, I've had enough. I can't bear to see this anymore. Please don't show it to me. Please help me. It's not giving me peace. It's not giving me joy. I thought it'll give me joy, but it's not giving me joy. Just like a child, which begs for many things which it is not ready to receive. It cannot, the parent cannot explain it. Fine, fine. Bhagavan is like a parent to Arjuna. You want to see it? I'm telling you, you're not ready. I'm telling you, it's of no use to you. But fine, see it. And Arjuna soon realizes that he's capable of seeing this. It's not giving him the joy he thought it would give him. And so he begs the Lord, please stop it. So here you have Bhagavan, after showing him that cosmic form, clarifying why he is showing him. He declares, I am that Mahakaal. I am that Mahakaal. Here's where he declares that in verse number 32. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Kalosmi Lokakshaya Krit Pravriddha Lokan Samahartam Tumihi Pravrittaha Rite Pitvam Na Bhavishyanti Sarve Yeva Sthita Pratyanikeshu Yodhaha Shri Bhagavanuvacha Kalosmi Lokakshaya Krit Pravriddha Lokan Samahartu Hartatumiha Pravrittaha Rite Pitvam Na Bhavishyanti Sarve Yeva Sthita Pratyanakeshu Yodhaha Shri Bhagavan लोकों का नाशक महाकाल हूं, यहां लोकों को नष्ट करने के लिए प्रकट हुआ हूं। जो विरोधी सेना में स्थित योद्धा हैं, सब तेरे बिना भी नहीं रहेंगे। Shri Bhagavan says, Blessed Lord says, I am the mighty world destroying time, Mahakaal, engaged here in annihilating the worlds. लोगों का नाश करने आया हूं मैं. Even without you, all these warriors arrayed in the opposing armies shall not live. Even without you, Arjuna, why you give yourself so much of importance? Why are you giving yourself so much of importance? If you won't do this, somebody else will do it. If you don't fight in this battle, somebody else will fight. If not today, 10 years later. If not today, 10 years later. Why do you have this kartritva bhavna? I am killing, I am doing something. See, whenever there is a difficult action, we come up with all sorts of excuses. And that's when our kartritva actually shows. That's when our kartritva gets exposed. Because we're afraid, I am doing this. Oh, I don't want to have that difficult conversation. Please, तुम ही बात करो. नहीं, मैं नहीं कर सकता. Any difficult action, our kartritva comes up and we're afraid. I can't do it. How can I do it? Bhagavan says out here, even without you, all these warriors in the opposing armies, they shall not live. So I am that Mahakaal. First of all, God is not only responsible for creation and maintenance, God is also responsible for destruction. This world, as it were, has three primary forces. It's actually one. Three primary forces that drive the world: creation, destruction, and maintenance. Creation and destruction are two sides of the same coin. Something gets destroyed, something else gets created. It's just that destruction is painful. But something gets destroyed, something else gets created. And in this procession, the world is maintained. So the powers of God, as it were, are personified as creation, maintenance, as destruction. The powers of Brahman, as it were, are personified as Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara, Mahakaal. So this is inevitable. So you've seen the good, also see what you're uncomfortable with, also see the terrible. I am the mighty world destroying time. I am that Mahakaal. And this Mahakaal you're not able to withhold. The more egoistic you are, the more attached you are to the world, you will not be able to bear this thought of Mahakaal, this thought of annihilation. But it will happen. All the worlds are flowing between manifest and unmanifest. Whatever is created will be destroyed. Kal will play its role. Kal will play its role. This is the truth of life, regardless of whether you are comfortable with it or not. So that's why Bhagavan takes this form. And then he gives Arjuna a very important message. Don't have this kartritva bhavna. You are a mere instrument of action. You have landed up here with these capabilities, with these qualities, because Bhagavan has prepared you for it. That's yourself. Any action you perform, any capability you have, any quality you have is a gift of the cosmos, is a gift of the universe, is a gift of the Lord. Don't perform any action with a kartritva bhavana. Instead, think of yourself as an instrument. You're simply playing your role. You're simply playing your role. You're an instrument. And Bhagavan aapko baja rahe hain. Jaise Bhagavan basuri bajate. You're like a basuri. Bhagavan is playing you and you are creating that sound. So whatever action you perform, it's something that actually God is performing through you. Through you. So even without you, even if you weren't there, all these warriors shall not live. If you don't do it, someone else will do it. So get over this kartritva bhavana, O Arjuna. Get over this kartritva bhavana. You are a mere instrument of action. You are a mere instrument of action. And therefore, arise. Therefore, rise up. Bhagavan will urge Arjuna. So now you almost wonder with suspicion, why did Bhagavan show all of this to Arjuna? Is he simply trying to manipulate Arjuna? What is the purpose of the Vishwarupa Darshan? Was it to actually help Arjuna see the Lord, or was it to drive home this very point? It's a good suspicion to have. The very purpose of the Vishwarupa Darshan, why did it happen? Maybe to drive home this one point. That get up and fight. Get up and fight. Get over your personalization, get over your ego, get over your kartritva, and perform your role, perform your obligation. Be that instrument you have been designed to be. Do your obligatory action, O Arjuna. We'll discuss this further starting tomorrow. We'll discuss this further and then we'll flow into chapter 12. So this season we have classes only till the 28th. So today is the 26th. We have 2 more classes, tomorrow and day after, where we will perhaps just touch on chapter 12, and tomorrow we'll spend perhaps concluding this chapter. So with that thought, we'll meet tomorrow and we'll continue our discussion. Hari Om Tat Sat. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purna Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.